The July search for a young boy who slipped and fell into the Menominee River ended as many do, with a tragic result. But not because of a lack of training or effort on the part of the fire department's Dive-Rescue Team.
This search and rescue operation we've gone through this in training many times. The Dive-Rescue Team trains every month. Everybody on duty, every member of the team is required to attend these training sessions, and they go through all different types of rescue, including river rescues like this, in the lake, boats overturned, whatever it may be. And so they're well versed and trained in this type of operation.
There are about 40 firefighters on the Dive-Rescue Team, the oldest special team in the department. Training goes on in the heat of summer and the cold of winter.
We've managed to come up with some techniques that work pretty well. We have some ladder apparatus that we even have on some of our ladder equipment now that have inner tubes tied in with them that can be slid out on the ice, and where our guys can at least get something to a person quickly before the dive team gets there. Once the dive team reaches the scene, we have a long ramp that we can use to put out on the ice, and we can actually walk out, and if the ice breaks while they're out there, that gives them the safety stability that they need to be able to work out there without falling into the water themselves. Now during the summer, when we can actually get in the rivers and the lake area, then we can emphasize more of the actual search pattern type of effect, where we have a certain technique we follow to do that. And of course there's obstacles in the rivers and that, guys get tangled up in things, and we want to see how they're going to react when that problem would present itself in a training situation. So if it happens in an actual dive incident, that they're comfortable and know what to do. It's probably one of the more difficult issues that we deal with a swift water rescue. Water is moving at such a rapid pace, and it's very dangerous not only for anybody that's playing or doing something near those rivers and creeks, but also for the rescuers themselves. Unfortunately, we've had a couple situations over the past couple years where it's been too late. We haven't been able to reach the children fast enough, and it's just unfortunate. The best thing is to get the message out that the kids stay away from those areas, especially when we've had rainstorms where the water is really dangerous.
Call it a jet ski, a personal watercraft, or a wave runner, it's also one of the newer tools in the Dive-Rescue Team arsenal. The machines, which are donated annually to the city, provide another method of rapid response.
A lot of the local fire departments are getting these machines and coming up with ways to get people out of the water in a really expedient manner, and that's what we're simulating here today.
Which side do you want me to start at?
Make a left turn around the barrel. You start on the right, you turn around it to the left. Then you go to this one, then to the green one. Left, left, right, right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, try it again. No, actually go to that corner.
Well, the machines we have are loaners. They're from Wilson Sports in Palmyra, and at the end of the season, then we'll turn them back in and they'll sell them. But we have the use of them for the season for rescue work. Well, today we set up two different courses. One course is a agility and maneuvering course to see how well the operators can get the machine around. They don't have brakes, obviously, like a car, so you don't want to run into something or someone else or a victim in the water. You have to control your speed while you're going around different objects. And the other course is set up, we're going to use for a rescue, pick up survivor in the tow sled and bring them back to the beach. We think we can use this technique to get lots of people out of the water quickly to the beach and just keep shuttling them back and forth by doing it that way. See, we have the ability now where we can launch these things almost anywhere. We've got lifting straps, we can drop them right off of a bridge. With enough firefighters, we can just pick them up and just carry them right into the water, drop them in. We can zip out really quick as opposed to having to launch a boat. It's very time consuming to have to put a boat in the water, get it off the trailer. This way we can fly right out there and pick them up.
Occasionally, firefighters must respond to situations which are not the norm, such as flooding from the severe storms in June of 1997.
They had people in their homes that needed to get out or were scared and wanted to get out, and so we took our inflatable watercraft and went up and down the streets, either assuring people or helping them get out. We had some of our divers in their wetsuits carrying people to safety, and it was quite an operation. And like I said, it's something our divers don't always get called upon, but it was just another, I guess, flexibility of the dive team that they were able to accomplish a lot in that situation.
Whether it's flooding in the streets, a search for a drowning victim, or any other emergency, Milwaukee is fortunate to have firefighters with special training in water rescue.
You know, we've got Lake Michigan out here with a lot of boating activity. We've got the river system that runs through the city, and then plus we got the sewer creek system that carries a lot of water at times, especially during stormy weather. We know that unfortunately that people get into these riverways and they call upon us to help them out.
And they are ready to respond. And as qualified as the dive rescue team and all firefighters are, they never stop training. Among the older homes in the 1600 block of North 19th Street, you'll find this new home. What looks like a single-family home is a community-based residential facility for 7 elderly adults. It was designed to look like a traditional Milwaukee bungalow by the Urban Design and Historic Preservation sections of the Department of City Development.
This had been a city-owned lot, and the city's planning division is obligated to review the design for the building that was being proposed for this site. Well, the original design as proposed was a modular home, and it was very low to the ground. It did not have a front porch. This design, as you'll notice, is raised off the ground. There's a raised foundation, and that's a traditional feature of Milwaukee's architecture. It also has a very large front porch, which is another thing that Milwaukee's homes are well known for, a usable front porch. And the windows and doors are sized more traditionally, or they're sized more to reflect the traditional proportions that architects used years ago. They sized their windows and doors very carefully. They weren't just haphazardly placed or haphazardly sized. There was a real method behind what they were doing, and we're trying to bring that back with this particular design.
Joanne Harris Adams of Residential Living Services owns and operates the residence. It's a living arrangement for elderly adults who need assistance with many daily activities but do not need nursing home care.
The city of Milwaukee was instrumental in basically taking this design, my design, and helping me to incorporate it into a design that was pleasing and acceptable into the community.
What kind of reaction have you had from your neighbors?
The neighbors are very, very pleased. They feel they are very accepting of the program itself as well as the housing. They absolutely love it. I get compliments from the neighbors. They feel that it has enhanced the appearance of the neighborhood, and they're very pleased with it.
Well, we're interested in building value into the city, and we realize that there is something very important that you see in these older neighborhoods. There's a lot of character here, and it's something that has created over the years a very livable and friendly and dynamic community, and we're trying to retain that which is good from the past and incorporate it into some of our newer structures.
While it's the type of housing planners have been trying to promote, this home also brought another benefit to the neighborhood.
The goal was to bring jobs into the community, and we've done just that. Many of our employees, I would say over 50% of our employees, reside in the very near community.
Milwaukee is not unique in its desire to provide new housing with traditional architecture. This single-family home is in the Settlement Ridge subdivision in Hartford. The 3-bedroom, bath-and-a-half bungalow is a modification of the Milwaukee design, built by the same builder who constructed the home in Milwaukee.
The city's design was to try to bond the neighborhood back together. There had been a lot of razing of old buildings. They wanted to bring back the traditional neighborhood with the pedestrian-friendly, where the house is focused on the street and the street side elevation that is pleasing from the street and kind of brings the whole old neighborhood system back together again.
Ditmar Realty wanted a similar look in its Hartford subdivision. And with a price for a lot and home under $120,000, this design is also attractive for potential homeowners.
Hartford's in a unique situation. They've got a lot of industrial jobs that are moderate income jobs, and they need houses that people can afford in a price range that's affordable. Customers have been pointing in the last years to wanting more front porches, so we're seeing more homes designed with front porches, and people are liking the looks of a smaller home, but again, they want something that's got a little appeal to it.
The homes are partially built in a Wausau Homes factory, then finished on site. Because of the interest shown, Northbrook is going to build another similar home in Milwaukee's Lindsay Heights redevelopment area. The 3-bedroom, bath-and-a-half model with a price of $88,200 will be built at the corner of 14th and Garfield, Several more are planned. Joanne Harris is so pleased with the outcome that she is thinking of building another residential facility and would recommend it to others.
I think that it certainly would be the way to go, because a home, it certainly is compatible with other housing, and that's what you would want. You would want a home that would be pleasing to the community and acceptable within the community, as well as home-like. You don't want an institutional look. You want a home that is going to be warm and inviting, and home-like. That's the key word, home-like.
Accidents occur every day in the city of Milwaukee. There were nearly 11,000 during the first 7 months of 1998, 2,600 of them hit and run. Fatal or unusual accidents often result in a call to a specially trained police accident reconstruction team.
The officers that are assigned here go to 5 courses at Northwestern, a total of 8 weeks, and that gets involved with accident investigation, dynamics, and an accident reconstruction.
The officers are part of the accident investigation section of the Milwaukee Police Department. Not all accidents reported here can be reconstructed. Decisions on which will be are made by the chief. The team was involved in this fatal accident at 76th and Good Hope Road in July of 1997, spending nearly 8 hours on the scene. One person was killed in that crash, which involved 7 vehicles. A Thunderbird traveling east on Good Hope ran a red light and fatally injured the driver of a southbound car.
We gathered the evidence at the scene, the measurements, any evidence that was left, any debris from the car, document where it was when we arrived, and then based on that information, we'll come back, put the information on a computer, and then make it into a scale drawing.
Okay, the first thing we try to do is we try to draw up the scene. We put it in scale. So they make a scale drawing of the scene on our computer. At the scene, you pick up all the puzzle pieces. You measure this skid mark, you measure that skid mark, you measure this piece of debris, that piece of debris. You come back, you put it all in order, all in a nice, neat diagram. On the drawing, you can actually put the pieces back together. We then can take this drawing that we'll have, which will be in scale, and we can then take it up and make a larger drawing off of it so we can use it for a working copy. The district attorney wanted to know how much prior to him going through this red light, or did the red light just change? So what I had to do is I got a lighting sequence from the city, and by figuring out when they had the green lights and who has the red lights at what sequence, I came up with on this one here that this person had a red light for at least 14 seconds prior to them going through the red light, showing obviously the person wasn't just trying to get a jump on or make it through the red light at the last second.
Ultimately, no criminal charges were issued in the 76th and Good Hope accident because of extenuating medical circumstances. This accident in November of 1994 was another of the many cases involving the reconstruction team. An Illinois man reportedly ran a red light and collided with a county bus. The bus crossed over a sidewalk and drove through a parking lot before crashing into a house, killing the driver.
This one here became a question of visibility, and so what Officer Biscobane, who's now retired, and myself did is we worked this one out using a time and distance to find out when the vehicles could first see each other, when they could have first known that they were first going to hit each other. We have no indication that this person ever saw the bus. The indication is that the bus saw the other guy.
No criminal charges were issued in this case by the district attorney because of a lack of conclusive evidence and conflicting witness accounts. Why is it important to have a reconstruction team to do such exhaustive studies? Many accidents do involve negligence, and police look for evidence of a crime.
You have to be able to prove that a crime was committed regarding accident. Most people just look as, well, an accident occurred, but a lot of times there's a high degree of negligence that the district attorney's office looks for to prosecute. And that's the reason, being able to show the negligence involved that caused this accident. If you didn't have the technical expertise to put the accident back together, you may never know. You may never come to an accident that could actually be prosecuted.
The reconstruction team has a specially equipped squad car to determine if speed is a factor in an accident.
26, 28, 30, 30, 30, 32. What we just did was what's called skid tests. What we want to do is we want to find out the coefficient of friction of the highway to find out how fast a car decelerates. So what we did is we set up our bumper gun, which as soon as the officer hit the brakes, send a chalk mark down onto the pavement, and then we mark where he stops. Now what we could do is we could go back and we could measure the visible skid marks on the road. Using those drag factors, I'm going to come up with the speed of the vehicle. 20, 24, 26, 29, 31, 32, 34, 36, 37, 37, 38, 39, 38. Had this been an accident and I'd see skid marks like that, I could come out, I could measure them. After doing this drag test, what I could do is I could come up and I could say that the car was doing at least so many miles per hour. It's important for speed of the factor, whether speed was a part of the accident. Was the guy going in a 30-mile-an-hour zone? Was the guy doing 45, 50, or was the guy doing 25 miles an hour? DA again uses that for whether there's a high degree of negligence involved in the person. So we'll tell relatively accurately of what his speed was.
The door of a squad car which was involved in an accident shows the detail involved in every investigation.
We have some green paint there, what looks like green paint. As it turns out, it's not. It's really the yellow and the blue bleeding together that form the green paint on that part. We also have the indication of a license plate right down here. And then the most remarkable thing about this one is we can tell what kind of car actually hit this squad car. In this case, it was a Chevy. We know that because right up here we have a Chevy emblem. Chevy emblem up there showing that it was a Chevy.
Reconstruction team officers say many accidents and deaths should not have happened, and it's important to families and the community that they find the answers.
When you say accidents, you figure, well, it just happened, it was unavoidable, but the ones that we get involved in, the circumstance that we get involved in, these accidents shouldn't have happened. These people that died shouldn't have died. It was just criminal negligence or negligence that caused the accident.
Garbage carts become worn out or damaged and need to be replaced. Computers must occasionally be bought or at least upgraded. High-tech fingerprint ID systems help police fight crime. Firefighters need special equipment to deal with special emergencies. Streets need to be plowed and salted when it's cold. Potholes need to be filled in when it warms up. 3,000 streetlights are replaced every year when they burn out. Those are just some of the many hundreds of goods and services the city of Milwaukee must buy. And the mayor and common council are anxious to see that businesses owned by women and minorities get a piece of the action.
The name of our company is Santos International Travel Services, and we're located in the historic south side of Milwaukee, 1119 West Historic Mitchell Street. Basically, our business, we cater to the Hispanic community. Our business is primarily focused of 60% leisure and 40% corporate.
That corporate business includes doing travel work for a number of government agencies, including travel arrangements for officials of Miller Park and the city of Milwaukee. Santos Travel is certified as a disadvantaged business enterprise. The city requires that 18% of those doing business each year with the city must be businesses owned by minorities and women. Each vendor still has to bid against other DBE businesses, but it does help to create a market for them.
Fortunately enough, that has helped me tremendously. It was a challenge in becoming that. The requirement, the paperwork, the interviews was quite overwhelming. It is worth it, and I'm very proud of what I do, and I enjoy very much. So I was excited and with no hesitation to be involved with the screening of the DBE. And finally, when that was awarded and approved, more opportunities, mailings came in for me to participate in those bids.
Who is eligible for certification as a DBE? Any small business that meets specific criteria, including but not limited to management and daily operations controlled by one or more disadvantaged or minority applicant. A small business owned at least 51% by one or more disadvantaged or minority person. The Thomas Mason Company, headquartered on King Drive, is another DBE doing business with government agencies. Among its most recent major contracts, painting and flooring at the new Midwest Center.
We went ahead and bid all the packages, and we ended up doing all the painting and wall covering. And we were a subcontractor to another prime to install ceramic and carpet. So we virtually handled all the finishes at the center.
The Mason Company was one of the first businesses to become involved with the DBE program.
The city had contacted us because the owner of our business, my mother, had a maiden name of Fernandez. So they went ahead and contacted us and found out, in fact, that we were owned by a Hispanic woman. So we were one of the first companies to be in the program. We're able to bid projects that other, say, smaller minority contractors wouldn't have been able to bid in the past if it wasn't for the program. What it is, it gives you a hand up to step up to the next level, to get out of being a small mom and pop outfit company and be able to bid on larger projects.
And they do have to bid. Even though there are minority requirements for government jobs, getting that work is not a given.
It's a fallacy that when you hear that the minority contractors automatically get the projects, because you really don't. You have to be competitive and you have to be competent to do the projects. And that's key. There is a lot of paperwork. Is it worth it? Yes. Do I agree with it? Yes. The certifying bodies have to do a lot of paperwork. They have to do a lot of in-depth research into your company, and they ask you things that you normally wouldn't allow anybody else to ask you. And they need to see your financial statements and dig into your personal background. Is it worth it? Yes, absolutely.
Alvin Robinson is another certified disadvantaged business enterprise. During the summer, Alvin will have as many as a dozen employees cutting grass and cleaning up vacant lots owned by the city. In the winter, about 6 employees doing snow removal on city properties.
They help me with my business plan and get that in order. When I go down there, they help me. If they can't help me, they send me to the person that can help me with my business plan and financial papers and stuff like that. Once I did get a contract with the city of Milwaukee, they gave me a loan for the amount of the contract that I got to help start off with the business.
Like the others, Alvin also has private contracts, but he says the disadvantaged certification and minority business opportunities keep him in business.
If they wouldn't have gave me a loan and to start the business off, I wouldn't be here because I couldn't get a loan anywhere else. So, and they helped me with the business plan. So they pretty much helped me start the business off from the ground up. So without them, I wouldn't be here.
What would you say to other people who might be thinking about selling whatever they do to the city? Would you encourage it? What would you tell them?
I would encourage them to go through the program. It's very helpful. I mean, I learned a lot, and they was there for me all the time. Every time if I need them, I call down there. If I have a problem or something, and they're there for me. So I would tell anybody to do it.
While the city has a separate purchasing division, it is the Central Board of Purchases which sets the rules and standards for the things the city buys. The board deals in amounts of money over $30,000. A number of public officials make up the board, including the mayor, council president, finance committee chair, and comptroller or their representatives.
The purchasing divisions can still do 90% of the work and does 90% of the work. And a lot of the stuff we do is very routine and has been routine and is treated just that way. But by having even some of that routine stuff scrutinized a little bit more from time to time, there's new ideas, there's new ways of doing things, there's new perspectives. We might have bought the same widget the same way for years and years, not ever realizing that there's other widgets out there. So by having elected officials and people working in different areas questioning some of those things, we may come up with a better deal for the taxpayer.
In setting up the board, the city thought regular city employees could bring a unique perspective to its deliberations. Paul Monreal, a City Channel 26 employee, is one of the 2 employee members who get to question costs.
Why are we spending that much money? And it makes people aware in the departments that we just don't just push things through, that there are questions. Somebody out there is looking, somebody is concerned, or just watching for that dollar.
I think to give a variety of perspective, because the city employees are the ones that end up working with the materials and the services that we ultimately procure. And getting their input and their scrutiny as part of that process, I think, is very valuable.
The board also makes sure all vendors are treated fairly.
If a vendor feels aggrieved, if they don't think they were treated fairly, if they thought they should have gotten a contract that they didn't, they have an opportunity to appeal to the board. And staff will review that, staff will make recommendations, but the board will ultimately decide on whether they were treated fairly and their appeal should be granted. The primary purpose of the board is to help the city save some money, to get the best value. And I shouldn't say just save money to get value. It's not just taking the cheapest or the lowest price all the time. It's doing some value engineering, some life cycle costing, looking at getting the best value. And sometimes that means not taking the lowest bid. Sometimes that means taking the bid that makes the most sense and offers the most value.